I used to think that consistency was the hardest part of being a content creator. If I could just post every day, then everything else would fall into place. And for a while, that was enough. But about 6 months later, I came to a realization that I wasn't expecting, that nobody actually owes me their attention. It sounds a little harsh, but it completely changed the way that I see my content creation, how I see building businesses, and relationships in general. For months, I posted these reels. Some days they did all right, most days they didn't. I was proud to prove to myself that I could be some sort of consistent, but eventually I had to ask myself the difficult question: why would anyone care? Just because I spent an hour of my time to make something doesn't mean it's valuable to other people. Because the internet doesn't reward effort, it rewards value. And that stung because I realized that I was making content for myself as opposed to making content to provide value to someone else. Recently, I finished reading The Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. And I picked the book up expecting it was going to be about business or a marketing book, but it was really a relationships book, which kind of threw me through a loop. One idea that kept coming up over and over again in the book is that every customer is a person. And it sounds obvious, but it's easy to forget that every customer, every subscriber, every like, every client is a real human being with frustrations, with fears, with aspirations and goals. And I take that one step further, and that every person has a story. And when you start thinking about that way, marketing doesn't feel like you're trying to convince people, but it's more so that you're trying to understand them. So this switched my mindset because I stopped asking the question of what do I want to say, and I started asking the question of what does someone need to hear. They're two completely different questions because one is creator focused and the other is audience focused. And ironically, once you stop making everything about yourself, then your content starts to become more authentic because you're trying to serve instead of perform. Through this book, 5 main lessons stuck out to me that I want to share. First one is that attention is a gift. Nobody owes us a click. Nobody owes us a subscription. Nobody owes us 10 minutes of their day. And if someone chooses to spend that time with your content, then that's a privilege and it's not an expectation. That mindset alone changes how you create. 2 is care before you teach. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. Information is everywhere, but connection is rare. If someone feels understood, then they're more likely to take the advice that you have to give. 3 is build conversations, not followers. It's easy to chase numbers, subscribers, viewers, likes, but businesses aren't built on metrics. They're built on relationships. I'd rather have 50 people who genuinely engage than 5,000 people who never come back. Or as every interaction matters. One reply, one comment, one email, one coaching client, one conversation, those small moments build trust over time. You don't get to choose which interaction changes someone's life. So every interaction deserves your attention. 5 is play the long game. The overnight success stories are almost 10 years in the making. I'm trying to build something that still matters 5 years from now. And that changes the decisions I make today. Instead of asking, will I get views? I ask, will this help someone? Hopefully this helps you. This past week, I've been rebuilding my website from scratch. Originally, I thought that it was just going to be changing layouts and colors, but then I realized that I was asking myself a different question. When someone lands on this page, do they feel seen? Can they quickly figure out how I can help? Do they feel leaving encouraged? So that completely changed how I approached my project. And the website is less about me now and more about the people who visit it. I still have a lot to learn. I'm still figuring all of this out, as you can tell. But before I make a video or before I write a blog, I ask myself the question of who needs this? Because if I can answer that question honestly, the content usually ends up better. And if there's one takeaway I'd like to leave you with, it's this. Business is just relationship at scale. Whether you're building a business, creating content, coaching people, or just trying to make a difference, it starts with caring about the person on the other side of the screen. And if you can do that consistently, then the numbers will eventually take care of themselves. Hope this helps. I'd love to hear what your thoughts were and follow for more.